what's your take right now on the euro? Had some questions in the chat about the euro dollar, which has, had a pretty good couple of weeks now, finding a bottom around 1.0637, now trading all the way up to much higher than that. Where are you at with the euro right now?
All right. So first of all, you speak about all these sort of fundamentals are coming out of late, and we know that the Federal Reserve, the Feds did kept the rates unchanged at 5.25%, and that was last week on Wednesday. And so what they're looking at is the inflation level starting to come down, and that's the reason why they're holding off on raising rates. So that's a good sign. It's a good sign for the dollar, but keep in mind, every time they look to stop raising rates, they might be looking at the possibility of cutting rates if the inflation rate starts coming down too quickly. So if we look at the euro is trading against the dollar. The dollar is going to influence the movement and the direction of the euro. I'm anticipating a correction move on the euro, maybe a short-term correction, so which means that we may see some strength in the dollar coming out in the next few days as we're heading into the weekend. But eventually the euro is going to continue to be strong, which means dollar weakness. And so I'm definitely a bear on dollar long term, but I do see some recovery on the dollar short term. So that brings me back to the euro. If you look at the chart right here, and again, I might try to interpret the fundamentals into sort of fit it into what I'm seeing on the technicals, but really it comes down to what the technicals are lined up. How are the technicals set up based on what I should be trading? And so if I look over here on the euro daily time frame, I notice that the market did reach a top. And if I go to the weekly, sometimes when you look at the daily and it doesn't give you everything you need, you might go down to the weekly just to see what the bigger picture looks like right here. So the bigger picture looks like it's been falling since 2007. It's been falling pretty strong right here. And the market has created this wave structure coming down right here. So there it is. And if you look at this right here, look at the 1.618. You notice that we did hit the 1.618, so there's correction due. So the euro, in my opinion, looks like it may want to go back to retest the previous wave one breakout, which is this level right here.
What's up?
Dude, what happened to you?
Haven't you heard? It's the summer half-off discount sale.
Oh, that's right, I forgot.
Right now only, get half off any of our VIP Discord memberships. These memberships include access to our signals, where you can get entries and exits from Frank and I, and full breakdown and analysis with each trade. You can learn our strategies in detail. You can learn how to get funded with our training material to help traders looking for funding. And you can also join the chat room community. We have several membership opportunities, so click the link and check them out for yourself. And remember, you get half off if you either message us or use the discount code you see on the screen now.
And that makes me believe then the market may just be inside some sort of consolidation. And I'm looking long term right here now. Everyone could trade different types of styles, and there could be intraday traders, there could be scalpers. So the long term trend or the long term directional buyers may not be as important to them because they're really looking at a smaller time frame. But if you look at this right here, I think it's important to know where the turning points are going to be on the market. And I believe that the euro is setting up for maybe a little short-term dip as the dollar gets a little stronger, but eventually start to go back up again to retest this 123.50 level. So we see overbought conditions here on the weekly. That gives us some sort of hint that there's resistance being met. But if we go back down to the daily, and now I go ahead and say, all right, if the resistance is there and we're expecting some pullback, then I'm looking at these short-term swings right here. Now this is where an intraday trader and a scalper would pay a little more attention, because now you want to look for the turning points. And to me, the turning point seems to be back here around about 870, maybe around about 850. And then from that point onwards, we could start seeing the market start to find support and then rally back up again towards these highs. So I would say short-term, slightly bearish on the euro, and then mid-term rally, and then of course the long-term I see the euro as well rallying up to around about 123.50.
Yep, and several important points there too, Gary. You mentioned just kind of different time frame analysis and how different time frames, different styles are going to see different trades, but that there's kind of money to be made on both sides within proper risk management, proper setups, that sort of thing. Like you mentioned, the euro has had a really hot stretch, and I think that there is room on the higher time frames and the longer time frame horizon for a weaker dollar, right? Especially when you kind of compare central bank standpoints. You do have commentary that is leaning towards another rate hike. This next upcoming July meeting, I believe it's July 21st, about a month away from today. But on top of that, the next forecast after that is for the market to, or for the Fed to pause. Whereas you don't necessarily get that same commentary out of Europe. You get, Europe and the UK. I mean, we had UK inflation numbers this morning that came out unchanged year over year. 8.7% was the previous reporting. They were expecting it to come down to, I believe, 8.4% today. And yet again, we get the exact same inflation reading, 8.7%. So very stubborn inflation. And they're still very, very far from the more stubborn areas where we're getting into now, right? That 4%, 5% area of inflation. That's a lot harder to get down from there than it is to get from, 10% down to 5%. So they're kind of an interesting standpoint. And I do think that does create some rally potential for both Europe and for the UK as we see the divergences in their central banks. But as you pointed out, markets can take something and stretch it a little bit too far, right? They can be like, hey, this is just too, they'll be like, this is just blatantly bullish, and the market can run up too high. I mean, for example, just for fun, we could talk Nvidia for a second, right? A company that certainly has, become the darling of Wall Street right now. Massive rally. And the question is this overdone? I mean, I guess it's up for debate, but in my opinion, even if it's a great company, and a great company can still get overpriced, it could get overvalued and be due for retracements, let alone the entire NASDAQ or the indices, right? The NASDAQ has been on fire. We're seeing a bit of a pullback today. It's just something to think about, even though, like you mentioned, time frame horizons are very important. Even though NASDAQ, I'm still bullish on overall, I think it has room to pull back in the interim. So very important stuff there to consider when looking at this stuff. So the dollar, of course, making a little bit of a push back up today. Another big one, Gary, is gold and silver, actually. I don't know if you saw silver today. Here's gold, 1925 printing, which is a sort of a new kind of low the last several weeks. But silver, I don't know if you ever look at silver. Silver's getting crushed today, $22.58 an ounce. I mean, this is a really, really big sell-off. And one thing just to think about, people ask, well, why is silver doing so much worse than gold right now? Well, we had signs of a slowing economy out of China. The silver market is inherently a more commoditized metal. It is more of an industrial metal. And so if this demand from China is slowing like crazy, we're seeing silver and gold both tumble quite a bit. I've got my chart pulled up, and on the daily chart, what's so interesting here, somebody in the chat said I couldn't possibly see gold to 1800, which let's be honest, that's a big stretch, right? You're talking about $120 move or so to the downside on gold. Could it happen though? Absolutely, it could happen, especially when you consider, do I see the fundamental factors at this time? Not really, right? But sometimes the market will have something new, something surprising that changes the dynamics of the markets. Like you're saying, change is important to pay attention to. But here's the thing. If gold is able to break out this from just a purely technical perspective, why not continue to see this downward trend make its way? Now, you may have waves in between, but this level currently, and guys, you have to remember, I am generally pretty bullish on gold fundamentally. I see a dollar weakening story playing out, but I can't just take my fundamental thing and say, okay, buy it, it's going to go up, right? I have to wait for the technicals to align. And so right now, the technicals do not align. In fact, we'll have to watch how this daily candle closes. I think it's probably really important for us to watch this daily close, because again, if this level is able to close underneath the 1930s, if we're closing in the 1920s here today for gold, I think that's a sign of weakness, and that we may see this thing continue to slip lower in the interim. So again, a very interesting time for metals traders out there, for dollar traders out there. Again, I am bullish on gold, but I think, and I'm talking fundamentally speaking, I'm fundamentally bullish, but we need to see technicals start to play nice. And right now, we just do not have that until we start to see. There's a lot here technically from that needs to prove itself in order for me to go back into a long position on gold. I mean, I've been on the sidelines with gold for a while. I'm not shorting it personally just because of my style. I like to trade when fundamentals and technicals align. So I'm really only looking for longs, but I've got to see the technicals align with my bias, meaning breakouts, retests, higher highs, higher lows, the simple textbook stuff.
Don't forget to check out the links in the description if you want our broker recommendation, access to our free Discord, free EDGEFINDER, or want to chat with us on Telegram. Remember, you can watch us live in the markets every morning starting at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time, and we have lots more free trading tools and content available on our website, a1trading.com. Thanks for watching.